Hello and welcome. This is video 2 in the SSK Corona video series. In this video, I will be discussing how to extract samples from the SSK Sampler. Today's sample is ML text. You'll find this in Ask Ed, and if you click through the bottom button here, eventually you'll see ML text. ML text, yes, so this is an example that I posted in June of 2013. You may have noticed that as I was clicking these buttons, this path down here changed. This path, let's get back to ML text, shows you the location of the example or sample in the sampler. But before we go there, let's first go ahead and create a working directory to transfer our content to. Now on my desktop, I have created a folder called Extract Test. Now you can do anything you want. You can put it on your C drive. If you have a special drive for putting these things, that's great. But create a blank folder or directory, and then locate your SSK Corona installation, or where you've downloaded it, and within here you'll find a folder called Sampler. Now, I'm sorry, within here you'll find a folder called Frameworks. And in Frameworks is currently Basic and Composer. At the time of this video, I'm currently working on improving the Composer framework, so I would not suggest using that. Instead, let's go ahead and use the simple one, which is Basic. So open Basic. Oh, and by the way, I'm doing this on Windows, but it's quite similar on OS X too. So anyways, copy this, paste it into the folder that we created for doing the transfer, and then go back down to the root of SSK Corona, locate the SSK folder, copy that, paste that into your extraction test, or whatever folder it is you're calling it. Then let's take a look at the directory, samples, ask ed, ml text. Alright, so look in SSK Corona, find the sampler. Then under there, we look under samples, ask ed, and ml text. Take the entire contents of this folder, copy it, and paste it into your extraction location. Now it's worth noting that when you look in a sample directory, they will always have, at the very minimum, a sample.lua file. Others will also have folders and perhaps PNGs or text files. You want to grab all that stuff. And in this case, we also have a app.lua. Now it's going to be quite common to see an app.lua or game.lua. Now this is a module that can be used specifically for what we're doing. What I've done is generally I will package these things up into a module that you can simply copy into your working area, make a few small changes, and then you can use that module directly instead of writing a lot of code on your own or copying code out of the sample. So let's take a look at what we've got. First of all, let's open Mainlua. Now it's worth noting that I'm using Sublime and the origami plugin to split the panes down the middle so that I have side-by-side panes. Now let's take a look at this. The basic framework comes with a copyright statement. It's the same one that exists in all of SSK. It basically says you can use this to make games and apps, and you don't necessarily need to give me credit, but the one thing you can't do is sell this stuff unmodified and say that it was yours and you made it. So it also has a couple of lines in here that we don't need. It loads a profiler if you're using the profiler from mydeveloper.com, I believe it is. And we're not using that. And these two lines here are turning off the status bar, which is very common, and setting buffering to no, which means do not wait. Print out the contents immediately to the console. That way you get the output right away on your devices when you're testing. The only other thing it does right now is load SSK. So we could run this. I'm not going to. We're going to go right into the example. Instead, the next step is to take the sample Lua and open that up. Now let's go full screen here. Alright, so this is the basic layout of all the sample Lua files. It creates a table, and it uses that to bundle up a bunch of functions. It itself is a module, and then it returns that table, and I can later call these functions by using the handle and then calling init or cleanup, etc. But In this case, most of the code is going to live in Mainlua, so this is very empty. The only bit that we need out of here is we need to look at the top and see if we have included any other modules, and we did. This includes the app module. So let's go ahead and grab this line, paste it over into our Mainlua, and then what we need to do is we need to remove all of the preceding path, because in the sampler this module is buried very far down in the directory structure, but in our case we're putting it right in the root directory of our transfer folder. So let's go ahead and get rid of samples, asked mltext, and that simply leaves us with app. Now it's worth noting that I use the name app here. I could simply have called this my sample, or whatever I wanted to. It's just simpler for me to type app in this example. Alright, so what is the next step? Let's go ahead and close sample, because we've gotten everything we need out of there. And let's go ahead and open up Mainlua and see what's in there. Again, this is a module, so I create a table, I do some work, and then I start attaching functions to it, like init, cleanup, run, etc. At the top, I'm including yet another script, and it's got this preceding path business, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. Samples, asked mltext, get rid of it all. And if we take a look here, we'll see that we have a folder called mltext. That's what this is. We open it up. There is a Lua file in here called mltext. That's this. Alright, so everything else, pretty much you don't need to change it at this point. There is one small change for this example, and I will come back to it. So let's go ahead and save that. And let's go ahead and in the subfolder, now this is not always going to be the case, but in some of these examples, they will have subfolders with other scripts. They could be very complex samples. This is one of those examples. So open up that folder, locate all of the script files, all the Lua files. And there's 3, ggcolor, HTML, and mltext Lua. Let's go ahead and drop them in our editor. And basically what we need to do here is we need to look for the word samples everywhere. So lowercase samples, because that's going to indicate that there was a path to the samples, asked mltext, that thing that we've been getting rid of. So let's go ahead and just get rid of that. And mltext is here. Let's get rid of that. And this is a path to a JSON file, which also lives under samples, asked mltext. Get rid of it. Just go directly to mltext other. And I think that's it. So let's go ahead and save that, close that, and look in this file, nothing. And in this one, nothing. It's worth noting this example is using an external module from the Glitch Games guys, and so I've retained their copyright statement. This is a wonderful library, if you're wondering, that encodes all kinds of interesting color codes, and they've got just a huge set of them, so you can refer to the colors by name. Let's go ahead and close that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. Grab the path, and in the simulator, open, and ta-da. And I got a little bit too deep there, and open Mainlua, and nothing. Okay, well, what did I do wrong? What I did wrong was I did not, whoops, I'm switching my screen here, I do apologize. I did not look closely enough at what was going on in the sampler. So let's go ahead and look in sample Lua again and see what's going on. Aha, see, there's a little bit of code. No, here it is, app run. So I did this video once and I had to restart it, and what I forgot was to tell you that all of the modules are designed, the run and the init functions are designed to take a display group, so that anything that is created within the module or example is put in that display group. So let's go ahead to Mainlua, and let's say local my group equals display.new group. And then we'll just take this line right here, and we called our local reference to the module app, so that can stay the same. App.run, take my group, type that. Okay, so let's see if that is any better. And I think at this point we're going to get an error. Sure enough. Okay, so we got an error. So we're pretty close. This example started to work, but something went wrong. And I'll just tell you what it is. You could, in fact, discover this simply by running through the example and saying, oh, MLText 133, backtrack that, MLText 109, app 44. Okay, well, and line 44 of the app, something went wrong. Now, maybe, where did it go? I don't know. Was it here? Was it further in? This is the kind of thing you have to debug on your own. In this case, I know that on line, and it says 44, which is a little bit wrong. Here it is. So I called here, and I passed in this, which is defined here, and what do you know? My MLText sample, or example, if you prefer, is referencing a PNG file in the wrong place. It's got that samples, ASCII MLText business, so let's just go ahead and get rid of that, because if we paid attention, if I had paid attention, I would have noticed that there's a Joker PNG here that lives in this path, and that my markup language example that I was using here was referencing it. So now that I've corrected the path and said reference the Joker PNG in the root, I should be able to rerun this, and the sample will work. So let's just reiterate what has gone on here. It's because it's kind of a long path, but the steps are fairly simple. Run the sampler. Locate the sample that you want to extract. So AskEd MLText in this case. All right. Note the path to the content. Samples AskEd MLText. Remember that. Now create a blank folder on your desktop or on any drive that you wish to transfer the content to. Go to SSK Corona. Locate the frameworks. Select one of the frameworks. In this case, I told you to use Basic, so we go in there. You would have copied all of this content into your transfer folder. Then you would make a copy of SSK and put that in your transfer folder. Then, remembering the path, samples AskEd MLText, you locate that within SSK Corona Sampler. So let's back up here a little bit. Within the sampler, samples AskEd MLText. Then you would have copied all of this content into the extraction folder. At this point, you open main and you open the samples Lua file, and then you start transferring contents between these from sample Lua into Mainlua, and then eventually you modify something in App Lua or Game Lua if it exists, and you locate any other scripts that may have a path that needs to be changed, and you modify those too. And at that point, you should be able to run the sample and you're done. All right, well, I hope that this was helpful and not too confusing. If you found it too confusing, please leave a comment or that's here on YouTube, or go ahead and comment in the forums, and I will do my best to improve this. But that's pretty much all there is to it, and I think that you'll be able to handle it. All right, thanks a lot, and bye-bye.